Good morning, everybody. We convened this hearing of the Subcommittee on Oversight Investigations to examine what Solyndra's executives knew about the company's financial condition and how it represented that condition to the Department of Energy, the White House, and members of this committee. Just 2 years ago, after Solyndra received its $535 million loan guarantee, and 6 months after the Department of Energy restructured the deal, Solyndra has laid off over 1,000 workers, filed for bankruptcy, and has been raided by the FBI. Yet only 2 months ago, Solyndra CEO Brian Harrison met with me in the committee offices. He looked me in the eye and assured me that everything was just fine, and the company was on track to be cash flow positive. Mr. Harrison told me and other members of this committee that Solyndra was continuing to make excellent progress, that it was meeting all its cost and performance milestones, and that revenues were projected to nearly double in 2011. I was hoping that Mr. Harrison would testify today and explain to me and to this committee how he could make those representations in late July about Solyndra improving prospects when the company was on the path to bankruptcy just 30 days later. It seems clear to me that Mr. Harrison knew or should have known in July that the company was going to restate its financial projections to reflect increasing market and pricing pressure on its products, resulting in decreased revenue. When the committee invited Mr. Harrison and Mr. Stover to testify at last week's hearing, Solyndra's counsel said that Mr. Harrison would appear voluntarily and would answer the committee's questions. However, Solyndra's counsel asked the committee to postpone their testimony by 1 week, claiming that Mr. Harrison and Mr. Stover were involved in active negotiations to potentially sell the company, and that an earlier sale might potentially result in a better recovery for the taxpayer at the company's bankruptcy. I agreed to this request and provided that Mr. Harrison appeared this week and testified. In return for postponing his testimony by 1 week, I was provided written assurance by Solyndra's counsel that Mr. Harrison would answer the committee's questions. Unfortunately, we won't get those answers today. Mr. Harrison and Mr. Stover's counsel informed the committees 3 days ago that they would decline to answer the committee's questions and would invoke their rights under the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution. I respect the witnesses' rights under the Fifth Amendment, but I want to make it clear today, though, that this subcommittee's investigation will continue. We have been asking questions about this deal since February of this year. We will get to the bottom of why this loan was pushed out to a company whose liquidity issues were a major issue to Department of Energy staff reviewing the loan back in 2009, and which ultimately caused its bankruptcy. We also figure out just how DOE concluded that restructuring the Solyndra deal positioned the U.S. taxpayer for maximum recovery, end quote. When documents produced to the committee showed that ONB staff doubted that it would prevent a Solyndra bankruptcy or result in greater recoveries for the government. We are also determined to know why DOE allowed the taxpayers to be subordinated to the private investors during that restructuring in violation of the clear letter of the law. What we do not know is whether the Solyndra executives here today have something to hide. Was all the information they submitted to DOE accurate and complete? What did they know about their financial situation, and when did they know it? And how did they represent it to others, including this committee? What did DOE understand about Solyndra's financial situation? Did DOE know what they were doing, and did they properly monitor Solyndra and the taxpayers' money being used to prop Solyndra up? My colleagues, these are all the questions I would have liked to receive answers from our witnesses today. Congress and the American taxpayers have a right to know whether this loan guarantee was rushed out the door before it was ready for prime time, whether the administration doubled down on a bad bet after knowing of the company's dubious commercial prospects, or, even worse, whether $535 million of taxpayers' dollars were wasted on false or incomplete information. We intend to get those answers. Please rise and raise your right hand, and I will swear you in. And I need you to make sure your mic's on, if you don't mind. Okay. Do you both swear that the testimony that you are about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Thank you, Mr. Stover. The chairman recognizes himself for questioning of the witnesses, and I should be less than 2 minutes, hopefully. Mr. Harrison and Mr. Stover, was every document and piece of information you submitted to the Department of Energy and the White House Office of Management and Budget, the United States Congress, and your investors accurate, complete, to the best of your knowledge?
Mr. Chairman, I have tremendous respect for this subcommittee and the important oversight role that it plays. As much as I wish to be able to answer the members' questions, I have been advised by my counsel that it is the better course for me to assert my constitutional right to decline to answer questions under the Fifth Amendment. While I hope to have an opportunity to assist this committee's inquiry in the future, on the advice of my attorney, I must respectfully decline to answer any questions put forth to me by this committee.
Mr. Stover.
Mr. Chairman, on the advice of my counsel, I must invoke the privilege afforded by the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, and I respectfully decline to answer any questions put to me by this committee and subcommittee. I have great respect for the crucial oversight role that Congress plays in our democracy. I trust that the members of this subcommittee similarly have great respect for the privilege afforded every citizen by the Fifth Amendment.
Mr. Stover, knowing the financial conditions of the company in mid-July, were you aware of Mr. Harrison coming to Congress and painting such a rosy picture of the company? Did you review all the financial information being presented to members of Congress, Department of Energy, and OMB, and did you discuss it with Mr. Harrison?
On the advice of my counsel, I invoke the privilege afforded by the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, and I respectfully decline to answer any question.